Hello everybody, Rick here, and the Facebook group Horror Night Nightmares has released their second HHN 31 speculation map. Let's take a moment and talk about it. But before we really begin, I need to give you a disclaimer. This is nothing official from Universal Studios. This is from the Facebook group. I'll leave a link to it in the description box. This is all their speculation and rumors about the Halloween Horror Night houses coming this year. Let's pull up the map and take a look at it. And the first thing you're going to notice, if you are familiar with the first version of this speculation map, is that half of the houses have already been changed. Gone from version 2 are Fear Street, Seaside Village, The Evil Dead, The Last of Us, and Pandora's Box. Another thing of note with this speculation map, the scare zones. There are 5 scare zones for Halloween Horror Nights. They are only predicting one right now. They're only guessing on one, and they are guessing that, or speculating, that Scarecrow will be a scare zone in Battery Park. So right now, that's all we have speculated for scare zones. And then as far as the shows are concerned, we know there's going to be 2 shows for HHN 31. This speculation map, rightfully so, is predicting the Marathon of Mayhem, the water fountain show. That's an easy guess. But the second show, unknown at the moment. Another thing of interest regarding this map and the shows, they are predicting the second show to go in the Fear Factor Stadium. That's where shows have gone in the past. Whether or not that continues this year still remains to be seen. So now let's take a walk around this map showing you the Halloween Horror Night houses as predicted by Horror Night Nightmares, the Facebook group. Again, link in the description box. So the first house we're going to come to on Production Central will be a Stranger Things house. That's different than the first version. I could believe it. I could believe that because they have had Stranger Things in the past. Universal seems to have a good working relationship with Netflix and especially Stranger Things. So I think that's a good prediction. And now let's get your thoughts on Stranger Things. Let me refer to my Instagram account. You can follow me on IG at my Rix Flix. A few days ahead of putting out these videos, I will put questions out or ask for your feedback on Instagram. And here's what some of you have said about this speculation map. Kim Chi says, never enough Stranger Things. Hopeful for this one. And then Mark Attack replies or comments on my IG with, not Stranger Things again. And then we have Just Dakota. I need Stranger Things. It's what got me into HHN in the first place. I'm in favor, personally, Rix Flix is in favor of a Stranger Things house. This will be the last one. The last season of this series will be happening before Halloween Horror Nights. So for me, it's a good way to say goodbye. I really did enjoy that series, and I really did enjoy the haunted houses they had related to Stranger Things, mainly because I was a big fan of the series, and it's really fun to kind of step inside the TV show and enjoy Stranger Things. But I do understand if you have Stranger Things fatigue. That usually happens with the third iteration of a house anyway. Usually by the time we get to house 3 of the same thing, there's a little bit of fatigue. So some of you may be having Stranger Things fatigue, but not me. I'm excited for it. And then as we move on down the Production Central Road, we're going to come to Dead Man's Wharf, and then Bug House, and The Mummy versus Wolfman. Let's start with Dead Man's Wharf. That is an original house. See if we have any comments on that. We do have one. J.C. Powell says, if there's a Dead Man's Wharf, why wouldn't it be, near the wharf? That is my thoughts exactly, JC. I mean, there is a section in the park. There's a San Francisco section of Universal Studios with a wharf. Why? And for this year, we think a house is going to go in that section. So why wouldn't they, if they're going to have a Dead Man's Wharf, have it in San Francisco? Things that make you go, that doesn't quite make sense. Maybe they're correct with predicting the house, but maybe not the location. We'll see about that. Moving on to Bug House, which is another original house. And by the way, you get intellectual property houses such as Stranger Things, and then Universal Creative, they create their own houses. Those are original houses. And in my experience, and I think a lot of people feel this way, is the original houses end up being the best houses. And I think that's because Universal, they have more freedom. No one has to sign off on what they've done. When they design a Stranger Things house, Netflix has to sign off. We like this, we don't like this, keep this in, take that out. With original houses, they can do anything they want. And for that reason, I think the original houses tend to be better. So what do we have any comments on? Yes, we do have some comments on the Bug House. The family does. They say, love the idea of Bug House. People scream in fear when a single cockroach skitters. Can you imagine an entire house themed around crawling, six-legged creatures? People will lose their minds. Six-legged and eight-legged creatures. Personally, if they have a little section that's like spiders, a lot of people have that arachnophobia. I don't think I have a lot of it, but maybe a touch of it. So that could be interesting. I see how this house could get under some people's skins. A Bug House? For sure. Live and love say about Bug House. I may have a panic attack after Bug House, but I am ready. See what I mean? A lot of people, those bugs going to seem a little creepy. And plus, with this being an original house, who knows? It might be the best house of the year if this speculation map is true. And then moving on down the line, the last haunted house in the Production Central area, really most of these are going to be backstage of Production Central, will be the IP house, so intellectual property, the Mummy versus Wolfman, classic monsters there. So let's see what you guys are saying about that. We have a comment from On a Mission to Be a Better Me. Actually, it's a question. Do you think that Mummy versus Wolfman would be one of the tamer houses? I'm going to say no. I think you may be kind of thinking about Beetlejuice and how Beetlejuice last year was one of the more tamer houses. But, those are two classic monsters. This will not be a tame house. Can you imagine just like a little wooded area inside this house and you got a wolf man jumping out at you? Yeah, this is going to be worthy of some good scares. And now moving on down the line, we come to the San Francisco area where we think a house will go in this year, go in kind of the Fast and Furious attraction area, because there is no Shrek attraction this year. So there will not be a house in Shrek because they're remodeling that and retheming it for a new attraction. So no house in Shrek, but we think they're going to move that to the Fast and Furious location. And the house predicted to go in there, El Chupacabra, an original house. Once again, like we were saying earlier, it would make sense if the Dead Man's Wharf was there, not El Chupacabra. Comments from you guys on my IG at my Rix Flix. We'll start with JC Kirkland, who says El Chupacabra already has my vote for best house of the year, assuming it's anything like the previous Yeti house. This is guaranteed to be a fan favorite. And Gavin27 replies with, if El Chupacabra is as good as Yeti was, it might be my favorite house this year. So we have a couple people already equating that El Chupacabra house with the Yeti. And the Yeti house, that was over there in Production Central. So you know what? Let's go ahead and just swap these two. Let's put Dead Man's Wharf over in San Francisco, and we'll move El Chupacabra over to the old housing for the Yeti. That'll make everyone happy. That makes sense. But a lot of you are anticipating a good house with this one. I myself, I didn't think much of it when I first read the title, but when you guys started equating it to the Yeti, it perked my interest a little bit. So I have higher hopes for that now if, like I said before, if this speculation map is accurate with that prediction. Moving on down the road, We have a house they're predicting to go in where one usually goes, in between the Fear Factor Stadium and MIB. I still question that. I don't know if that's going to happen. Usually by now I would see construction in that area, and I don't see it. And I was thinking they were planning on demolishing the Fear Factor Stadium. And if that was their plan, they did not file permits to build a house there. But that will sort itself out. We'll find out that in time. But right now, they are predicting a house still to go in between Fear Factor and MIB, and that house to be the Horrors of Blumhouse, the Black Phone, and Freaky. This is one I question. We're going to see what happens with this. Now, as far as the house itself, do we have any comments on that? We have a couple comments. Miami, Florida Nest says, I'm super excited for another Blumhouse. He says that because previous years had a different type of Blumhouse. And then Gavin says, and by the way, this is the Gavin from Survivor 38. Some of you guessed that before when you saw one of his comments, but it is that Gavin from Survivor 38. He leaves a comment regarding this HHN speculation map. He says, drop Blumhouse, add Scream, and you have one of the best lineups in HHN history. He's not the only one who has mentioned Scream in the comment section. So analyzing his comment, drop Blumhouse, add Scream, I'd be in favor of that. I could go for that. Okay, let's continue around the map, and we're going to get to an area that's kind of in between the MIB gift shop and the Coke refreshment area. There's usually, for Halloween Horror Nights, 2 queues that go backstage for 2 houses. This map seems to think that will continue to be the case. And for those 2 houses, they are predicting 2 original houses. One would be Underground Creatures, and the other house would be the Wicked Growth 2. Now, here's the thing. Let me check my IG. No one left a comment on Underground Creatures. So, is there just no interest? I mean, it could end up being one of the best houses. It's an original house. So, surprisingly, this is not catching on with anyone. It's not striking a nerve with anyone, but you never know. It could end up being the best house. And then the other house in that location, also an original, but a sequel, in fact, the Wicked Growth 2, the best Halloween Horror Nights house last year, according to me and a lot of people, was the Wicked Growth house. That was a fan favorite with a lot of people. And right now, this speculation map by Horror Nightmares is predicting a sequel, really, to Wicked Growth 2. Let's see what you guys think about a sequel to Wicked Growth. So, Julie Howell says, I just want Wicked Growth 2 to definitely be a thing. And Danny writes, I wish they waited a year or so to make Wicked Growth 2. Like already, it was my favorite house, but we literally just had it. Some people might feel that way. I think I may be on the same page as you, Danny, wishing they waited a year or two to let our anticipation and, how can I miss you if you don't go away, that type of attitude for Wicked Growth 2. But, I'm sure they'll do a good job. Maybe they're going to do like a whole series of Wicked Growth. Could be 3 or 4 of those in a row, like a big old story arc or something. We'll find out. And then as we move along the map, we're going to head into the Kid Zone. Always a couple houses backstage of the Kid Zone every year. And this map, at the moment, they're saying Halloween, which, just this past year, another Halloween movie came out with Jamie Lee Curtis. So there is fresh material for another Michael Myers Halloween Horror Nights house. I am a fan of Michael Myers and him being in haunted houses. Really, I'm a fan of all the classic slashers from like the 80s, like the 70s and 80s of Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers and Leatherface. I love those classics. But let's see what some of you are saying about a potential Halloween house. Theme Park Universe. Rumor is that Halloween is a red herring. placed there to hide a different IP. I'm not sure if I quite understand or agree, because this is not placed out by Universal. This is, Horror Night Nightmares, the Facebook group. It's their job. It's what they do to predict houses. I don't know why they would need to have a red herring and kind of throw us off track. So we may agree to disagree on that. I don't think it's a red herring. I think they're honestly predicting that house. And then Mike Dittenberg, in regards to Halloween, he just says, excited about Halloween. Me too, Mike. Like I said, I can't get enough Michael Myers during Halloween. And the last house, a bit of an odd house, one would think. Many think, in fact, The Weeknd. So this kind of ties into, I think it was 2020. There was a lot of talk, a lot of chatter about Billie Eilish having her own house. So this is kind of in that vein. When I read it on the map here, it does not excite me. Seems like it could be more of a fun house, kind of like a Beetlejuice house, in regards to its approach of not being really scary, but kind of a fun, scary house versus just making you scream and poop your pants. Yeah, that's right. I said poop your pants. But let's see what some of you are saying about the potential for a Weeknd house. Kaylee says, I'm confused. How does The Weeknd have a house? Yeah, you're not the only one. And then Noah says, will The Weeknd haunted house be the first one with singing scare actors? A little tongue-in-cheek question, I believe, there. But you never know. They could come out screaming a lyric at you, I guess. That might be pretty scary. And if you're not a fan of The Weeknd, really, really scary. So there you go. Those are the 10 houses predicted for Halloween Horror Nights 31. This is the speculation map 2.0. So there will be another revision. We'll see how many of these stick in version 3. But there we have it. Let's get some final thoughts, what we are thinking about these predictions here. T-Dub says, last year the zones weren't scary at all. I honestly found them lacking. Hopefully they can improve on those. So T-Dub's talking about the scare zones. Thought maybe they were a little too family friendly. Got to amp it up for this year. I'm all in favor of that. I like scary scare zones. And then Robo HP. The IPs get your attention, but it's the original houses that make HHN. For the love of God, please bring back Bill and Ted's somewhere. Looking forward to HHN regardless. Yes, I second that emotion, Robo. Even if Bill and Ted's doesn't come back with a full show, which I love this show. That was one of my favorite all-time live shows. Even if Bill and Ted does not come back as a stage show with music and dancing and comedy, what would be wrong with giving Bill and Ted their own haunted house? I think that'd be pretty awesome. Let's do that. Let's make that happen. Universal, if you don't give us the full show, give us a Bill and Ted haunted house. At least some point in time. If not this year, write it down for next year. And then Frank Reynolds, regarding the speculation map in HHN 31, says, very disappointed. The IP houses should blow you away, but all I'm hearing on these are meh. The Weeknd should be a scare zone, just like Rob Zombie in 2019. That's a good suggestion. That's good. I think I would prefer, if The Weeknd were going to be at HHN, I would prefer it as a scare zone versus a house. Good thought there, Frank. And we have Caroline Giles leaving a comment, says, this is my first ever HHN. I'm so excited. Can't wait. You are going to have a blast, Caroline. You know what? You should go ride the Velocicoaster before HHN starts and then come over and do some HHN houses. You're going to love it. My wife, Nikki, it took me a long time to get her to attend Halloween Horror Nights because she doesn't like being scared, but it has become, and I can say this with certainty, her favorite theme park event of all time. And it could become yours too. If you guys have never been to Halloween Horror Nights, I highly recommend it. You know what? In fact, I give it my highest recommendation. So a few last closing thoughts. when I went through my IG comments, a lot of commentators were wanting Five Nights at Freddy's. A lot of you brought that up. Five Nights at Freddy's would be a good house. So even if it doesn't happen this year, maybe next year for you fans of Five Nights at Freddy's. And then also a lot of commentators bringing up Scream House, wanting a Scream House. So as far as what has not shown up on any of the two speculation maps, it would be Five Nights at Freddy's and Scream House has demand from the people. They want it. And there you have it, my friends. That's your Halloween Horror Nights 31 Speculation Map 2.0. I hope by the time we get to 3.0, some of your favorites stay, get added, and some of your non-favorites fall off. We won't know until they release 3.0. And like I said earlier, as we get closer to Halloween Horror Nights, this map becomes more accurate. I can say with 100% certainty, this is not the final 10 houses. Some of these are going to drop off. Some are going to stay. So until version 3.0, don't miss the magic. Don't miss the fun. Thanks for watching Rix Flix. And now click that subscribe button.